Welcome back. Now, in its part 2 series, I will give you scenarios on step-by-step ways to amp up your love-making session over the phone with your man. Are you ready? Are you ready? Now, the easiest way to make love over the phone is to think about the scenarios and not the specific lines. Now, if you're trying to remember 23 specific sexy lines to say to your man, it will take a lot of thinking and brain power too. Trust me, this will be a recipe for disaster because you're going to spend so much time trying to remember what to say or do that you completely take yourself out of the moment. And that's one of the problems of using a script, because using scripted dialogue only ignores the fact that the phone sex can be a collaborative project between you and your man. Sometimes you might be touching yourself for your man who is mostly quiet, or you will most likely be creating a story or a fantasy together. So you need to be flexible. You need to be spontaneous. You need to be ready to use what your man says and create a dialogue that is seamless and fluid. But when you're only trying to think of a scenario, everything becomes a lot easier. You will definitely find out that you have to think less and that you can just go with the flow. So keep this in mind as I walk you through some phone sex scenarios that you could try with your man. Of course, this doesn't mean you can't have a few lines pre-prepared, okay? Now, understand that this is all about you. See, the easiest way to make love over the phone is to simply describe what you're doing to yourself, to get yourself to orgasm or to push you over the edge. Now, I am going to give you a scenario, right? This scenario is pretty straightforward. So you could just start off by describing where you are and what you're wearing. For example, you could say on the phone that, oh, I'm in my room with the lights turned down real low. Or I'm wearing those silky panties you got me for our anniversary. Or I am on top of the covers and I have my toys beside me. I am not sure if I should use it. Or I just shaved my legs. They feel so smooth against the sheet. I wish you were here to feel them. Or you could just say, do you know that I imagine you when I touch my juicy pot? Or I had this hot dream about you recently. We were doing this or you were doing that to me. Then you could also move on to what you're doing to turn yourself on, like, I'm caressing my twin towers right now. Or I'm gently tracing my fingers on my thighs. Can you feel me getting all flooded for you right now? Now, this is just the beginning. You can elaborate massively on these examples. And don't forget, if you're feeling nervous and, pretty much apprehensive about describing what you're doing, then you could just always let your man listen to your breathing and moanings as you get yourself off. It's just as simple as that. No two ways, okay? Now, let's make it all about the man, right? Another simple scenario is for your husband to describe how he's getting himself off. But if he's nervous, he just doesn't need to do or say anything, all right? You could simply just listen to him breathe or moan or groan or whatever. Once he does it a few times, I'm sure that his confidence will build up and he will find it a lot easier to start describing what he's doing to himself. Let's bring the art of domination here a little bit, because making love over the phone can just be as good for domination just as playing in person can be. But also keep in mind that this will vary in format on whether there are actual instructions about touching oneself or taking pictures, or if both of you are just describing what you would or could do to one another over the phone, all right? Whosoever the dominant person is can easily take command of the conversation and action by giving commands like, oh, I want you to touch yourself for me right now. Tell me what you're doing. I don't need you to come yet. Don't you dare come yet, all right? Or the dominant person can say, come for me now, come for me, baby. Or something in that line, do you get? And if you don't know, the phone works well for orgasm control, or call it edging. So you can use that and tell them, oh, you don't want them to come. And they, on the other end, would be faithful enough not to come until you tell them to come, okay? This is applicable to couples who know how to edge themselves. Now, if you like to be submissive, you can describe what you'd like your partner to do to you, or, you know, you could get their permission by asking questions like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to wear? What should I do to myself? Can I come now? Am I yours? Or I'm yours, baby. All of me is yours. The juicy part is yours, baby. Or I leave to please you. It just depends on what you want to be in the moment, whether a dominant or a submissive. Or maybe you just want to be that cowgirl. You can describe how you're grinding on top of him. You're bringing him closer and closer to orgasm while you feel a wave of orgasmic pleasure coming over your body. You know, just describe what you want to see or what you want him to see. You can even describe how good the head game you're giving to him right away is, you know, making you feel, while he mimics your description with his hand on the other end of the phone, touching himself. You could even talk about how you're softly running your fingers up and down his sausage and his 2 eggs, just to tease him. You know what I mean? Then you could start focusing on the tip of his sausage with your tongue before taking him a little deeper. All of these are imaginary things that could actually get any man rock solid on the other end of the phone. So as you're working him up to orgasm, you can then start to describe how you're deep throating him before allowing him to finish up on your body or on your face. You could also amp up this love making over the phone by role playing. It works. Anything can work on the phone. All right? Just think of what people would say in whatever role that you decide to take up. Maybe you want to be a nurse, or you want to be a doctor, you want to be a teacher, or you want to be a masseuse. You could also spice it up by incorporating sexy reading time, all right? One that you could read an erotic story to one another. You could even alternate who reads and have fun finding sexy stories. And you could try discussing your sexcapades too, because it can be a great way to start phone sex. But these sexual memories also would give you an idea of things to say during this time. You can just get pretty explicit, but please be careful not to mention people's names, people that you've had encounters with during your sexcapade, because that would be distasteful and demoralizing, especially if the scenes are not the ones both of you have shared. But if it is, then you can go on and say all of the things like, I remember that time we were shagging when so and so happened. You know, I remember when we were in the cinema and we had that, you know, heated moment and everyone was watching the movie. They couldn't even figure out what was going on, but I made you come. I gave you that hand job. You know what I mean? It was the best sex ever. Maybe you could say the first time we had sex, I was practically shaking in anticipation. Gosh, you really did something inexplicable to me, to my body. Like my body answered to every one of your touch. It answered to your beck and call. It was at your my body was at your beck and call, baby. Just be naughty. Be naughty. Then throw in your fantasy too, because naturally you will have your own fantasy, so make sure to work them into that full phone call conversation. Because look, great phone sex is not just about 1 or 2 dynamite lines. It's about being able to paint a vivid picture for your man so that he can clearly imagine the situation and be turned on by it. Phone sex phrases are often just, you know, you describing what you would like to do as if it were your fantasy. And also remember that if you ever run out of things to say during this act, you could just focus on what you would do to your partner. Like say things like, I would like to sit on your lap and grind against you until you come really hard. Or I am going to just slowly strip for you, baby. I'll take your entire sausage in my mouth. Just say all of those naughty things that come up in your mind in that moment. Of course, when using these lines, make sure to emphasize how attracted you are to him, how much you want him, how good he makes you feel and how good you can make him feel too in return, all right? And then you could try doubling your pleasure with toys. Obviously, toys are a great addition, whether they're smart or they're not. You could try snapping a picture or describe your toy options and have your man choose which one that you should use. So if you use a toy, you can describe exactly what you're doing with it. Some people also find it hard to talk about their toys too. For example, oh, this toy is so big. I don't know if I can use it. I don't know if I can take it. You know, like, this toy feels so good, but nothing compares to your toy, baby. Nothing compares to your joystick, baby. Just be crazy, just be expressive. Don't forget to personalize the game, because the best love making you could ever have on the phone happens when you add your own fantasies and you encourage your real desires. However, if you want to start with some of the basic things to say, there's an easy way to personalize it. You know, add names. You can moan your man's name or use it when you give a command over the phone. Pet names can also help set the tone. Maybe you're feeling romantic. You could call him my love, or you may have some nicknames that you use, all right? Just use them. Another thing that can make phone sex really spicy is you add in sound effects, because sound is all you have during, phone sex. So you would want to use it to its full potential. One way to do this is to add a background noise or add background noises. Now, you don't need to become an audio producer, but there are a few things that really adds ambience. And that could include smacking or a crack of a paddle, or just spanking yourself, or snapping a rubber band on your wrist. That could accomplish the similar effect too. Now, also consider some sucking noises as you go down on your toy, or you could hold your vibrating toy, your vibrator, close enough to the phone for your man to hear it. If you want to switch things up, why not consider, using your Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, WhatsApp, video calls. But don't do it with a boyfriend, or don't do it except you want to see your sex tape on the internet everywhere. That's why I keep saying these are things that you could do with your husband, not your boyfriend, please, unless he is married to you. So make sure it is with your husband. We don't want to hear story that touch at the end of the day. We don't want that. We don't play like that. Now, let's wrap things up here, because all good things definitely come to an end, right? Now, most people, just assume that making love over the phone ends when one or both of you had just orgasmed. Now, if this happened, you might want to end the call or go back to talking normally, or whatever. Just keep in mind, however, that your man might get tired from the sex over the phone, just like he does in person. And so the call might just end after that. Plus, it also might not be possible for you to come despite following all of these tips, because you might be nervous, or maybe you just ran out of time, but it would be worth it after all. And also keep in mind that it's not a must that anyone has to come, because the moment might just fizzle out, and that's okay. Or you might just reach the end of your story without feeling the need to orgasm. Again, the point here is that you both enjoyed yourselves. Do you get me? Yeah, so that's it. Anyways, I'm ending this conversation here. I'm going to come back with the conclusive edition of this phone sex series. Are you enjoying this? If you are enjoying this, tell me you are enjoying it. Tell me in the comment section, and tell me if you've ever had this experience before. All right, be right back in your speakers. Mwah.